Hello everyone. I wanted to do a condensed version of do-it-yourself prompt cards. I did this on a live stream a couple days ago, and there's a lot of information, and I was a little distracted with the chat and stuff like that. So I want to do a step-by-step how to make prompts for yourself in the easiest way possible. This is a large project. It's really overwhelming. I have become overwhelmed, and so I know a lot of people out there have become overwhelmed. So I want to break it down just a little bit into little bite-sized pieces so that we can make our prompt cards and get the project done. So there's a couple of reasons that you might want to have prompt cards. One of my reasons is I forget that I have things and I need to be reminded sometimes. So it's kind of like having an inventory, a list of things that you have that reminds you of things to use. Number two, it's good for if you think that you're doing the same things over and over and over again. It changes things up. You get some new techniques in there that you forget to do. You get different things put together, different tools, different techniques put together that you wouldn't normally think to put together. So your pages, your projects end up looking different. You're doing different things. So it is a good challenge for yourself. Also, if you just sit down, you've got a few minutes. Oh, what do? I don't know what to do. Get the prompt cards out. You can, give yourself a certain number, deal yourself some cards, and this is the reason I put them on playing cards myself. I give myself 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the prompts that I will be using. I don't have to think about it. It's all there for me. I can, take my prompts and figure out what else to do. So they're good for if you just don't know what you want to do. And it's good also to remind yourself, we watch those people, we watch those videos, and we see that technique that we want to try, and we forget when we sit down that we want to try that. So write yourself a note. You want to try this technique. This is the list of whatever it is, and this is what I want to do. Put it in your prompts and get it done. It reminds you things that you want to do. So they're really nice to have, not only for beginners but for everyone. They're nice to have. And I do want to say they can be really detailed or they can be really general. I'm planning 2 different sets for myself. One really, really general one that can be overwhelming for some people. If they come across their prompt that says a square, it can be too general. So, how do I add a square? What do I do with a square? So some people might need something a little bit more detailed. A square, add an inchy, or draw squares, or you can make those prompts more detailed. So, and also you can do your prompts any way that you want to do them. I did my first set on playing cards so that I could shuffle. I've got, I think it's a 1.5 decks, 1.5 deck cards here. It's not quite 2 decks of cards. I just used Sharpie marker, wrote my prompts on the deck of cards so that I could shuffle my cards and deal myself as many prompts as I wanted to. I am planning to do them more general ones on some little pieces of cardstock that I have cut. Just general pieces of cardstock, so I can write down my prompts on these and put them on a binder clip. I can put these behind my back and pick out some random ones, or I can flip through them and see what catches my eye. Or you can write your prompts down on pieces of paper and fold them up, put them in a jar, and you can gather your prompts that way. So there's many different ways to actually go about this. So to get started, we're going to do this in 3 steps. I don't know how easy the steps are, but we're going to do this in 3 steps, okay? The first step, sorry, getting excited there. The first step is to make an inventory of your mediums, supplies, your tools, your paper, all those kinds of things. Step 2 is to start combining those lists of inventory, those things that you have, tools and supplies. Start combining those 2 lists together into actual prompts. And then the third step is to write your prompts down on whatever you are using. So, step number 1 is start making your lists. Let's see. I'm going to start. I've started making my lists. I have a long way to go still, so I am still making my lists. Don't let it overwhelm you. We've all got a ton of supplies. We've got a ton of tools, things that we've got in drawers that we don't even remember we have. Start going through things. Start looking around you. Start listing all the mediums and supplies that you have. And of course, you can always add to the list. So for me, I have acrylic paint is number 1. Number 2 for me is watercolors. Now I've got the watercolor pans, the children's watercolors. And you can be as general or specific in your list as you want to be. For me, I need to be pretty specific. Watercolors, I've got a ton of different kinds of watercolors. I've got pan watercolors. In pan watercolors, I've got metallic, I've got glitter, I've got regular. I've got tube watercolors. I've got watercolor crayons. I've got a bunch of different kinds of watercolor type water-soluble crayons. So I am going to break my list down. Neocolor 2s. I have portfolios, which are really oil pastels, but they are water soluble. So I'm going to make a tag or a prompt that has portfolios. We've got the sparkle sticks and watercolor pencils. We've got all kinds of different things, scribble sticks, and I don't even know what some of these brands are. I've got a lot of watercolor crayon sets. For myself, I'm kind of breaking those up. I want pans and tubes, crayons and pencils all to be separate. I'm not going to lump those together all in one prompt. And then for pans, I want metallic and glitter and regular. I want the watercolor crayons. I want the different types of crayons that I have. I forget that I have, watercolors is one of my favorites. I forget that I have so many different types, so many different things. I don't always have them all in the same place. I forget that I have them. So I am making a prompt tag for every single item that I have, just to remind myself as an inventory to use the stuff that I have. So watercolors, acrylic ink. I'm going down my list here. Of course, you're going to have other things. You're not going to have everything on this list, and that's why I suggest people make their own prompts. They're not worried about doing a challenge that somebody else has created and not having one of the items that's on the challenge, okay? Or even not liking to do whatever it is. um, acrylic inks, Crayola crowns, Inca Gold, Delusions paint, mermaid markers, scribble sticks, sparkle sticks, twinkling H2Os, ink pads. Now, we've all got all kinds of ink pads. They do different things. Um, the distress inks do different things than an archival ink pad would. I am breaking them down into the different types of ink pads that I have. Not only to remind myself to use all the different ones, because I always go for the distress, but because you can do different techniques with the different kinds of ink pads. I'm breaking those down. Sprays, the Tattered Angel sprays, and there's Delusion sprays. There's all kinds of different ones. You may want to break those down as well. Gel pens, ink pens, paint pens, colored pencils, watercolor pencils, metallic pencils, Sharpies, gel pens. Did I say that already? I mean, I'd have to go through my markers here and remind myself what I have. Micron pens, China all pencils, Stabilo all pencils, Sharpies, Posca pens. It goes on and on. The Elegant Writers, gel pens and colored ink pens, and all these things. They're here. I forget to use a lot of these things. Pencils, graphite pencils. Make a list of all those types of things that you have. Don't forget washi tapes, stickers, rub-ons, Wink of Stella, gelatos, embossing powder, gesso, whiteout. Take some time. Think about all the things that you have. You might have all kinds of different kinds of acrylic paints. You might have metallic paints and regular paints. You might have the fancy golden, the high flow, those kinds of things. You may want to separate those kinds of things out as well. And when you're doing your supplies and mediums, you'll probably, if you want to add prompts for adding collage bits, like I will be doing, you want to add different kinds of paper. You can make a prompt to add paper or different kinds of ephemera, book pages, book text or illustrations, tissue paper, dress patterns, scrapbook paper, newspaper, maps, magazines, images and words, catalogs, travel brochures, wrapping paper, joss paper, handmade paper, phone book pages, stamped or embossed images, printouts from the internet or from your photos, from your artwork. Old artwork, it can be the actual artwork, it can be the photocopy. Artwork is a great way to add things to your already, your mixed media. Doodles, painted paper, deli paper, wax paper, art scraps, paper bags, security envelopes, fabric, ledger paper, braille, photos. They can be the regular photos or they can be copies of photos, family photos, travel photos, snapshots. You've done those artistic, wonderful landscapes or still lifes. Those are great in your mixed media, and you don't have to worry about copyright because those are your images. Napkins, doilies, lace, tracing paper, store-bought ephemera, all kinds of ephemera. These are fun to add with prompts. And we don't always remember all the different things that we can add. I will be adding these in mine. Store-bought ephemera, those Tim Holtz packages, I love those. I get them. I forget to use them. Menus, tickets, not only the little tickets, but, parking tickets, airline tickets, events, movie tickets, those kinds of things. Recipes, postage stamps, stickers, handwritten letters and notes, greeting cards, Valentine's, junk mail, game pieces. I love board games. I go to the thrift shop. I get them if I can. I especially like them if they're missing pieces. Then I don't feel guilty about ripping them apart for the bits. Monopoly is good for the money and the chance cards and the what do you call them? The little cards, the boardwalk cards. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Clue is good. They've got cards in them, and they're fun to add. Puzzle pieces, playing cards, flashcards, receipts and canceled checks, paint chips, lotto sheets, library cards, index cards, die cuts, wrappers, coin wrappers, crayon wrappers, the foil candy wrappers. Those are so much fun to add. Foil of any kind. Tea bags, cigar bands, instructions. You get those shelves, you put the shelves together, you've got all those instructions. Those are fun to add. And when you get a camera or a TV or something, it comes with a manual. Take a look inside that manual. A lot of times they will have foreign languages in the manuals. Unless if you're like me, I don't speak languages, so those are pretty much they're useless. But they're a lot of fun to rip out of the manuals and use in your mixed media. A lot of times they have different languages. Labels and packaging, food packaging, packaging when you buy something. A lot of times we'll have lettering or patterns or great color or even texture on them. Take a look at all that packaging. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can use. Labels from bottles and canned foods and all kinds of stuff. Fortune cookie papers, drawn images. They're ephemera. There's probably a ton of stuff that is not listed on here. So those are great as well. So when you get your medium supplies and all that stuff, you start listing all that stuff. The next list that you want to start doing is your tools. Tools are not necessarily things that you would use up, like paint. It's things that you use that you don't use up, like paint brushes, foam brushes, stencils. And for myself, I am breaking down stencils into, store-bought regular stencils. I make my own stencils. You can make a snowflake thing out of a piece of paper and use that as a stencil. So I do handmade stencils. I do found stencils. Drywall tape is a found stencil. It's not something that I bought, but it works really good as a stencil. This is it came in the collar of a shirt. It was for packaging, so the shirt collar would stand up in the package. It is a great stencil. I will use that. So found stencils. Here's a dish drain. That's a great stencil. Look around. So I will have different prompts for stencils. Regular stencils, handmade stencils, found stencils. The same thing goes for stamps. We've got rubber stamps. We've got cling stamps. We've got hand-carved stamps. We've got wine cork stamps. We've got the foam stamps. We've got stamps made from washers and O-rings. I'm going to put each one of those in on a different prompt. Brayers. We've got the regular brayers, and we also I have patterned brayers. I forget to use because I have too much stuff and can't see everything. Write down your tools. All those things: spirograph, paint brushes, fun foam, flip-flops, makeup sponges, kitchen sponges, ink dusters, decorative scissors, the jelly plate. I have my toy box. You guys have seen my toy box. I am planning on a video showing my toy box. I might do a prompt that just says the toy box. I'm going to know what that is. But then again, I am going to also break it down. Bubble wrap, drywall tape, cross-stitch mesh, punchinella, sink drain, all those kinds of things. I'm going to have a different prompt for each one, a bunch of different stuff in my toy box, just so I have them on my list. So that is step one, making an inventory, listing the things that you have. Look around you, take some time with this, and things will appear without you realizing it. I just realized I have lettering stencils. So in stencils, I need to put lettering too. So I can remember to use these every once in a while because I've got a ton of them and never use them. Okay, so we're making our lists, tools, materials, and supplies. Then step number 2 is to put those inventory lists together. Okay, so the first one on my medium and supplies list is acrylic paint. Acrylic paint is very versatile. We can use it in a ton of different ways. So what I have done is listed acrylic paint, and I am going down my tools list to put things together. Acrylic paint. Now step number 2 is making another list, and this list will be your prompts. So, and I like to do the list first before I do the third step, just so I can see what I have, and if I have any duplicates, kind of get rid of stuff like that. So I'm putting acrylic paint with my tools, and then listing down all those things. So with acrylic paint, with a dry paintbrush, with a wet paintbrush, acrylic paint with a credit card, with your fingers, with a brayer, and you can get very general or very specific, or you can be very general with your prompts. For acrylic paint with a brayer, and I've written one down, I have got a prompt for just a general acrylic paint with a brayer. When I come across this prompt, I'm going to have to decide exactly how I want to get the paint on the brayer. That can be overwhelming for beginners, so you may, if you're a beginner and you think that's just too general for you, you want to be a little bit more detailed. Acrylic paint, add paint to brayer from a palette, which means you get a palette, a piece of plastic or something down, and you roll your brayer into the paint and then apply it to the paper. Another way is to drop paint on the paper and use the brayer to spread out that paint. So you can be really general, or you can give yourself notes and be more specific for slightly different techniques. Okay? And as you're making your list, you're combining your lists together, this is the time to write down everything. You can decide later if you want a prompt for every single thing. So going on to the list for acrylic paint, Q-tips, chopsticks, sponges, kitchen sponge, makeup sponge, stencil with a soft brush, stencil with a makeup sponge. And again, you can just do stencil, acrylic paint with a stencil. When you come across that, you get to decide how you want to proceed, what you have available maybe, what's easiest for you at the time, or you may want to be more specific and say, I want to stencil with a soft brush, because I never do that. I need to remind myself to try that technique. All right, acrylic paint with a palette knife. watered down and splattered, lid circles painted on bubble wrap or other random objects. Add water and add the paint to a spray bottle. Add enough water to the spray bottle so that it sprays out like spray ink. Okay? It can plug up your spray bottles. If you spray them upside down until they're clear, you have a better chance of them not getting all clogged up. But anyway, drop the paint on to the paper, comb through with a comb. Adds a lot of texture. Put the paint on a piece of plastic, and burnish that plastic on your paper. Use a baby wipe. Use acrylic paint wash. Marble in shaving cream. Create drips. Foam brush circles. Just go down your list of tools and start writing down the list of things that you can do with acrylic paint. Then go and your second item, watercolors, watercolor pans. What can I do with watercolor pans? What can I do with watercolor tubes? What can I do with watercolor crayons? Start writing down all the different things. Now, this is where it gets to be really overwhelming, and this is where people ask where my list is so they don't have to think so hard about this. I will have a list of what I am putting together in Art Experiments on Facebook. It will be in the documents. I don't think it's there yet. There is one there, but I am going to update it, and it's going to take me time to get it all up there. The one that's up there is 4 pages long, I think. And it is there for reminders for all this kind of stuff. It will be there for things that you don't remember or haven't thought of yourself. It will be there. But the reason I'm going through making your own prompts is so that you can use the things that you have and use techniques that you enjoy using or want to learn how to use. Remind yourself of all these things. Okay? That's the whole purpose of it. So, step number 1, make the list for your supplies, materials, and tools. Number 2, start combining your inventory lists into different prompts and list all those prompts. Okay? Because if you start to go to step number 3 is take your list of prompts and start adding them to your cards. However you are doing yours, you can do playing cards, you can do pieces of cardstock, you can do pieces of paper. It is less overwhelming if you have a list already written down and you start to add the list, to your cards. And I don't know why that little step makes it a little less scary. I don't know, but it has helped me. So that is step number 3, is start putting your prompts from your list onto your cards. And you can be as detailed or general as you need to be. Okay? These are just pieces of cardstock that I have punched a hole in using a paper punch. And I will be putting these on binder clips. Okay? When I get them done. I haven't got them done yet. And my step number 4 is to start, after I get them all finished up and I've got all of them done and I can start using them, then the fun part is to start decorating them or making other ones to replace that are a little bit more fancy. And here's my circle stamp. I love my circle stamp. So I am making a prompt for the circle stamp so I can use it whenever I want to use it. but I probably will want it just a little bit more fancy than that. So I will be, here's the dye ink pad with the fun foam. So my step number 4 for myself, because at the end I want a really cool binder clip full of neat looking tags with prompts on them. So my step number 4, and you don't have to get fancy. This is perfectly fine for beginners to understand, to know if you even enjoy doing prompts. But this is my step number 4, is to decorate the tags. Here's my spirograph and the dye ink pad with fun foam, my crazy lady circles. That's just my step number 4. But if we do it in nice little baby steps, it's not so overwhelming. Now I am going to be doing detailed, some of them are going to be general, circle stamp. Some of them are going to be more detailed, acrylic paint, drop on paper, use brayer to spread. I'm giving myself enough information so that I remember what I wanted that prompt to be. So I remember what it is. I have done them too general and can't even remember what in the world I was trying to tell myself and had to redo them. Every once in a while I come across something that's like, I'm not sure exactly what I meant by that. So be as detailed as you need to be, or be as general as you need to be. I'm also going to be doing a very general, easy prompt binder clip. Just some one-word prompts: painted paper, book illustration, stencil, security envelope, triangle, ticket, ransom note words, joss paper, napkins, old photo, washi tape, handwriting. I'd have acrylic paint on here, watercolor, maybe watercolor crayons or that kind of thing. Just one word, so that I have to kind of figure out how to use that prompt. It's a little bit more challenging that way for some people. So, there's different ways to go about it, being very general or very, very detailed, or a little bit of both. I think that is it in a nutshell. So, I hope that was not too overwhelming, and I hope that has given everyone a direction to go in if they want to do their very own prompts. I do recommend it. They're great to challenge yourself, and they're great for inventory, to remind yourself things that you want to try and things that you have that you forget to use. They're great for that. Make them unique to you. Only make prompts for things that you have, and only make prompts for things that you enjoy. Don't make a prompt for something that you hate doing. You don't want to come across those. So, just in a nutshell, step number 1, make an inventory of your medium supplies and tools. Step number 2, start combining those inventory lists into prompts. Acrylic paint with stencils. Start putting things together, making a list of your prompts. And then step number 3 is writing those prompts on the card. Step number 4 is probably using them in challenges, challenging yourself to use those prompts and have fun with it. Challenge yourself. Okay? Like I said, there will be a list soon in the group Art Experiments on Facebook. If you need help with your list, it's there. And if you have any questions or any comments, please give me a comment. on the video, and I will answer as best as I can. The best I can. I think I've said everything. Just have fun with it. Don't let it frustrate you. Making the lists it can be a little overwhelming. Just breathe. Look around you. Take some time. Don't try to rush it. Have fun with it. Discover all the stuff that you've left in drawers that you haven't visited in a while. Think of it as an adventure. Thanks for watching.